I'm gonna be doing this from time to time because this focus that I have with this camera is not automatic. So yeah, tarot. Before I start, I'm just gonna say I was majorly rage baited by this room earlier today because I really wanted to start recording this video earlier, and I couldn't because it was so scorchingly hot here. It's not anymore, so I'm here. Yeah, tarot cards, tarot reading. I was requested by some people to do a video on this topic from my TikTok tarot reading accounts. And as I was approaching making this video, I realized that I know how this topic may sound to some people, so I'm very painfully, let's say, aware that not everyone believes in it, right? And I honestly, I get them. How can you explain really complex concepts, life situations, through random cards on your table, right? Right. And I think that if before I started reading tarot, I think I would think the same about it. So yeah, I really kind of set out to make this video as neutral as possible. Why? Because I myself have a really, let's say, developed logical part of my brain, and I do like explaining stuff. I hope I'm in focus right now, but yeah, I genuinely love, and I usually aim to explain stuff in such a way that is clear to everyone, and no matter what they, believe in or what they were thinking about specific topic before, right? Yeah, and I just wanted to share my own experience. I wanted to just tell about how I have been doing that and how I started to read tarot. So yeah, I hope you will find this educational, fun, joyful, etc. Oh my goodness, look at it! Wait, there's a huge end here. There's some kind of forest end. Oh no. Look at it. Did I see it? Oh, okay. They actually can be pretty aggressive. Wait a second. It's climbing up towards me. Okay, I'll let it leave. So how I started reading it. It all started in 2020. Did it? Yeah. So that was one of those years which was I remember being really introspective around that time. I'm literally just went back in time, yeah, it's 2020 right now. This time is very introspective for me. And I never had an interest to literally pick up tarot. I actually brought some cards here. I never had an interest in picking up tarot or learning about it. It didn't really occur to me, it didn't cross my mind, really. But at that point, I started feeling really strong, and I cannot use any other word rather than urge to get into it. Those types of feelings or experiences when you really start to feel strongly about something, specifically when it comes to learning something new about a specific topic or a thing, you feel that really strong pull towards something. That was it for me. And I didn't rationalize it, I just followed it, right? I didn't have reason not to follow it. I was yeah, this I genuinely want to try it out, or just try using it, why not? So I did get a tarot deck. It was a traditional Rider-Waite tarot deck. It's not the one which I got the first time around because my sister lost about 10 cards from it, so I cannot really use it properly now anymore. It's fine. I mean, there are a lot of other tarot decks out there. Yeah, I mean, this is how it looks. I'm not gonna go into the details of editions right now, but yeah, so it was a traditional tarot deck that people usually recommend getting when getting into tarot. And I think the most interesting aspect of specifically, again, my experience of working with it and like starting to read it is that and this is the reason why I say that even though I mean I do have experience in teaching in general, so I can teach drawing like to people of different ages, but I cannot really teach tarot, and I will explain why. What I can do to save your time, I can kind of like relay and tell you what state you should be in order to be able to read tarot. But why I'm saying that I cannot teach tarot is because the way I started doing that goes against any like concepts and rules of teaching, you know, by definition. Why? Because I would just get a question in mind, right? Or I would just get, you know, sort of intention in mind, or like I would have a goal to, let's say, like look into a specific situation that I had in my life, for instance, right? Then I would get out cards for it, and then just by looking at those cards, I was able to interpret the meaning of those cards, and this is like the key weird thing in my experience, is that I did not read anything beforehand. So I did not learn the meaning of each and individual card from the deck. I mean, they do have their cues, so you can kind of like, in general, sometimes tell what they might mean, right, based on the illustration that they have. But honestly, not always, to be honest. But then, so I would have those like spreads, I would have all those cards laid out in front of me, right? And I was able to interpret them and like build a whole picture or like description of the energy that I would get from it. And I will get later to the energy aspect of it. And then I would Google everything. That was before the times of ChatGPT. I would Google, that wasn't that long ago, right? I would Google everything. I would Google every single card that I got. And everything was mentioned. So literally, like the whole picture of the like situation that I was like kind of like reading in this spread, it was matching with what I was discovering in the process. Every single card, tarot cards, actually meant, which was wild and weird to me, to be honest. Again, as someone, this is insane. I literally have Queen of Swords upright right now. This is the card that talks about like logic and like rationality, and that was really interesting to me because I'm that kind of person who, as I've mentioned, I rely heavily on that part of myself. I need to explain things, right? So I need to pass them through a rational filter. This is where a very crucial and key aspect of tarot comes in, and that is intuition. Intuition, gut feelings. This is the aspect of, you know, I think different people can describe it differently. This is the aspect of, let's say, I don't know, conscious mind, human, that is separate from the rational parts of you, basically. I mean, I think we all had different experiences with intuitive nudges or hints. It has been, I would actually be curious to find specific studies, but I think I've seen some already. If anyone, I don't know if anyone knows about those, you can probably drop them in the comments. But there have been different studies about that. You know, and both the studies and just, you know, lived experience of humans kind of like show that it is a really, really legit part of human life in general. And when it comes to tarot, I always tell people that it genuinely truly works best if you use it specifically through that aspect of you. In short, you absolutely can do this. You absolutely can just, you know, go just card by card. We have Page of Cups, and then just, you know, learn separately, like mentally, all of the meanings of the cards, and then, you know, interpret all the readings specifically through the mental filter, let's say. This is how it usually works, right? Like, I'm just describing the general principle of like teaching things, right? You learn certain things mentally and then you apply it. not with this, not really. You can go about it using specifically that aspect of yourself, but again, I genuinely like advise not to use your intuitive abilities when reading tarot. Knowing the definitions of cards definitely helps. It definitely helps when it comes to the actual process of reading cards, and I will touch upon that later also. But yeah, I think I can actually already go deeper into the process of how do I read tarot. The process is really interesting, and again, I'm just describing my own experience, and my own experience was kind of like built throughout numerous like one-on-one sessions with people. Yeah, so first I will explain how the reading tarot feels in general as a process. There is this end, I'm sorry. It's huge. Okay. Oh my god, it distracted me. What was I saying? Oh, right. And this, another thing which I want to kind of like lightly touch upon is like my experience with clients in general. So, how I read it. The process itself is really interesting because, so in order for me to make a reading, I usually, well, let's say, yeah, like a person or like a client, I ask them to describe in general what they're asking about, right? So I have like at least some context. Honestly, sometimes even like the smallest amount of information is enough in order for me to like kickstart the just the process of that. And so again, I'm like highlighting again that this is like my own experience. This is how I would explain it, being such a rational person that I am, explaining this process which is objectively not rational, right? Yeah, I will probably actually come back to the time when I was only starting to read tarot. So after reading it for myself, I just started to test it on other people, let's say. So I started doing small readings for my family, friends, acquaintances. And in every case, people would tell me that I describe things like in a like spot on way, right? So again, very often I didn't, actually I think in almost all of the cases, I didn't really have a lot of information to start with, right? So it's not like I was changing the form or the shape of the information that I already had in my mind, and then I would just like describe it through cards. No, I genuinely, what I can say, like just honestly and genuinely, I felt certain energy, let's say, or like surge of specific emotions, and then I would just describe them with my words. And this is where we can go to the next parts when it specifically that is more focused on the process of how I do that. So the process of reading tarot cards. When I do get the request from a person to look into a specific situation in their life or something about like themselves, I usually ask for like basic information just to like, you know, have some like basis or the ground or like just at least some context, right? To kickstart the reading, let's say. And again, this is where my like personal experience starts and like how it literally feels to me when I do that. When I start like taking out the cards of the deck, I already can feel the energy, right? And so the closest probably I can get to like teaching tarot is literally like I can say that, and I personally can explain that I think that it does show you the specific current energy of this specific situation, right? I often call it a screenshot of energy, basically, in specific context, in specific situation. So when I start taking out cards, I can already sense the feelings, right? So it always comes down to like me feeling certain things. Yeah, so I literally, so while I do that, and again, different people do it differently, but this is how I do it. So when I take out the cards, and I literally, this is gonna sound super insane. I literally start like sensing like a very specific energetic slash emotional context, climate, which I then just get to describe in words. So very often, I would say probably actually like always, pretty much always, when I don't think too much about it, it does feel like I'm describing something outside of myself. And this is actually one of the key things that I can also mention about reading tarot, again in my experience, is that it doesn't feel like imagination. So I have a wild imagination in general. I'm a very visual person, but I know how it feels when, for instance, like I'm making up stories, not when I'm lying out. I know how it feels. I know how it feels to, I don't know, come up with some fiction, or again, like, a specific like scene, anything. It feels really quite mental based, right? This process, and I'm putting on the term. Oh my god, I almost spilled some water on it. When it comes to this feels really different. It does feel like a window to something else, something outside of me, let's say. This is what it feels like. I'm tapping into certain specific like energy and cloud, I sometimes call it like, energetic cloud, and I'm just describing it, right? What is also really interesting, and it may sound really, really weird, like I'm really aware, but this is just how it is, in my experience, is that how do I explain it so it don't sound as crazy as I think I do? Very often, like, I do use the phrase like what wants to come through, meaning that when I do get this sense of the energy, right? When I start sensing it, the description kind of like comes up on its own. This is actually quite an important aspect. Yeah, I don't have to think too hard or too much how to describe it. In fact, when I start thinking about it too hard, or when I start to rationalize what I get or what I feel through when I like open the reading too hard, I actually close the channel a bit. I actually notice that I kind of like stand in my own way, and I have a really funny story which I will share when it comes to that. In short, you really just have to let the energy come through the way it wants to. Yes. What is really interesting here is that sometimes I do not fully remember what I like described or said. No, I mean, like, generally I do, okay? I do remember the general story or the general context, of course I do. But what I notice, like, is very interesting. Like, for me, this is just like fascinating as a process. What is really interesting in this is that sometimes you come up with really interesting metaphors to describe the energy or to describe the energetic pattern or a context. Like, this is generally interesting for me, because I wouldn't think that I could come up with them, and then I just I say that. Yeah, and as I've mentioned, the very important thing here is not to stand in your own way when you do that. not to overthink this. I feel like this is like my problem. I feel like this is like just my thing, is that I love rationalizing things. Yeah, so one interesting story that I wanted to share when it comes to that is, so I had one client who they wanted to kind of like make sure that the way they want to approach a difficult conversation was good for them at the time. Yeah, so like, and I most of the time, pretty much always, I do readings like independently on like where the person is, so I don't need them to like sit in front of me. So I was just sitting by myself, right, starting to record my reading. And I kid you not, like, when I was like laying out cards and kind of like looking into that, I did feel very strongly that the person already had the discussion. They already had the talk, and they didn't tell me. So the client, I mean. Like, I literally could like get that from the cards. But this is where my rational mind was like, well, no, but like, why would they not tell you that, right? Because they literally ordered the radio from you about that. I think I still kind of like gave them general context and like other information about that. And then really, I didn't tell that I saw that they already talked about it. And guess what? It turned out that they did. So after I shared all the results with them, they were like, oh yeah, I already had that talk, but I didn't like tell you. You know, and things like that, and like similar, like things of similar nature actually like happened in my practice. When when very strong, like kind of like information or like energy would come through, and then I would like mentally question it. It like, when you do that, it really like dilutes this like sense of things when it comes to reading tarot. I think I've covered pretty much all that I wanted to cover. Yeah, I mean, if you have any more questions about that, or like, I open to describe or stuff or tell more. Oh, actually no. One other thing that I kind of like, I will briefly mention, is that I always tell people that this is a tool for looking into the like energy, specifically of the present moment, or like sometimes also like, of something that has already happened, so something from the past, but not really the future, right? Because everybody wants to like know the future, and it's not an accurate way to do that. What I always tell people, for those who really want to like look into the future, is that we can look at the current energy. Tarot shows really nicely, specifically the current energy, and based on that, we can predict, calculate, or like kind of see the general trajectory of the current energy, right? If we leave the current energy as it is, and this is what I also always tell people, you can change circumstances, right? You can change the current energy. It can be changed. It's malleable, right? So this is why saying like predicting the future is not very reliable with this tool, because your current energy can change, and very often like you as a person can do that. So this is why I'll also tell people, do not kind of like replace this like responsibility, but I try to empower people with that, right? This is just a tool to like show you, like, this is just a check-in, right? So it's not the verdict, right? I always try to tell people that. Yeah, I mean, so far that's it. I'm pretty sure there are more things to tell. Maybe I just forgot about them right now. But yeah, that was really fun. I knew it would be fun. Yeah, I just confirmed this for myself. So yeah, I mean, I guess leave all of your comments. Like this video if you did like it, and subscribe. I will see what else I will be having on this channel. I do plan, if this video is really liked by people, I think I would do it anyway. I wanted to do a whole series of explaining every single card and how I usually interpret it. Again, based from my experience of like how different card meanings played out in practice. Yeah. Stay tuned and I hope you like this. Bye. Also, should I show you my fish? I think I can show you my fish. Wait. This was one of my most prized possessions when I was a kid. Unfortunately, I think it is somewhat broken, but it was sinning. This was a fish that could sin. Yeah. We had some tenants here and they had kids and they broke it. But yeah, I think you believe me when I say that it was in 1999. This is the fish from the past century. Jesus Christ.